Thank you. Okay, welcome, Miss Carylee.
Thank
How are you
you.
doing today?
I am doing great. It's been a great day.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's I know that it takes time out of your busy schedule and you're reading and doing all the things to promote your book. So I am happy to have you and thank you so much for just allowing me to set this platform for us and allow you to speak more about your books and what you do and help the audience. People out there that may be interested in becoming authors, or maybe they are authors and may need some assistance. That's what I like to do. So,
Okay.
welcome to Comfort Legacies Book Review, where we just either we read books or we interview illustrators, authors, publishers, anything having to do with books. And I just want to really provide that platform, especially for African American, brown people. We don't have these opportunities too often to just come out and share what we've done, you
Yes.
know.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so tell me where you're from and who you are and what you booked, and I'll just let you have the floor for the moment.
Well, I am Carylee Carrington. I am in Northern Virginia, actually. I have actually, I'm a transplant.
Transplant, okay.
Yes. I've been in Northern Virginia now for about 12 years. I originally grew up in and spent most of my life in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York, but I am originally from Jamaica. So,
Oh, okay.
yes. So, I have that island in me.
Yes, yes. I can kind of pick that up. That's
And
Claire.
I am known in Northern Virginia as the accidental author. I have two children's books. I have the book Everyone Just Like Me, and my latest release, which was actually released in December 2019, Pretty Hair, which is my love letter to girls all around the world who may not think that they have pretty hair growing out of their head. And just to really let them know what it is to have pretty hair or pretty skin, that it's not all universal. It's not
Mhm.
just one type of hair, not one type of skin, that's pretty, and that our beauty lies within. So that is my latest release, and um, those are the two books that I have out right now. But I have been majority of my time actually doing a little bit of what you do, helping authors promote themselves with my platform, Read with Carylee, as you can see behind.
Mhm. Oh wow. See, that's awesome. I love your website. And I was hoping that you would okay, you have the read with Carrie Lee. Now, tell me a little bit about, you said you were the accidental author. How did that come about? Because
Well,
I think I'm pretty much in the same boat. I'm pretty much an accident myself.
yeah, that actually came about in about 2017. My son was in kindergarten, and he was having his first year in public school, and uh, actually a classmate came up to him and told him that he should be playing with children of his own skin color.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And that was something we hadn't spoken about yet. His father
Mhm.
and I had not spoken about that with him yet. And I was kind of taken aback because, of course, I'm not thinking that this should be something that 5-year-olds are talking about on the playground. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I came up. Well, I started to try to figure out exactly what to say to him, because my family is mixed, and even for my nieces and my nephew and my children, um, when they would refer to color, they would say, like, I am brown. And my mother, the late Dr. Norma McPherson, who was very fair skinned, very light skinned, they would refer to her as Peach.
Hmm.
So,
Mhm.
I would say, okay, well, I'm brown and grandma's Peach and she's my mother. So, we can all be in the same family. We can all play together. It doesn't matter what shade we might be, we're all the same essentially. And
Absolutely.
so to bring that point across, I actually was woken up in the middle of the night and the idea came to me of, using glasses to actually
Mhm.
break it down for him, to show him that if we all were the same, how boring the world would be. And that's how I came up with my first book, Everyone Just Like Me. So, Everyone Just Like Me is inspired by my son. And
Aw.
when I wrote the book, and my mom, who was a literacy coach in New York City, I showed it to her and she said, "You have to get this out." And I was like, oh, it's just something that I wrote for him to help him to understand. And she said, no, you need to get this out. And I said,
Right.
well, one of the things that I didn't want was to kind of be like a J.K. Rowling who,
Right.
shopped their books around and didn't really get the feedback that was needed. So she said, okay, why don't you try go the route of self-publishing, which I had never really thought about or heard about before. So I looked it up, and then I said, you know what? Okay, I will go ahead and self-publish this book. And I self-published it through the self-publishing arm of Simon and Schuster. And it everything took off from there. So that's how, I say I'm the accidental author, because I never thought that I would venture into writing children's books.
Right. Right. Okay. So you said it's Simon and Schuster. That's who you went through when
The
you.
self-publishing arm of Simon and Schuster, which is
Oh.
Archway Publishing.
Oh. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. So, well, what was that experience like? I mean,
It
because it
was,
was new and
yes,
it just came out of
absolutely.
nowhere.
Yeah, it was a great experience because, they basically kind of held my hand through the entire process.
Oh, okay.
Of course, I had to pay for getting the book done, but they guided me through the entire process, even working with their illustrators.
Hmm.
Uh, the picture that was in my head, and I actually I have the rough sketch of what I wanted it to look like, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they basically, I spoke to the illustrator, and when they sent me the sketch, I said, "Oh my gosh, you were in my head."
Wow.
So
Oh,
it
that's
was
nice.
a great experience to be able
Mm.
to do that and to work with them, and they, really got everything going for me.
How did you choose them? How did you come
Um,
across?
I googled.
Oh, okay.
And there were,
Google that.
about two or three that I found, and I went with Archway Publishing because it had basically the backing of Simon and Schuster, and that was a publishing house that I knew. I grew up knowing, and especially since my mom was a literacy coach, she had, kind of a relationship with some of the major publishers, and so it was kind of a no-brainer. You go with something that especially
Okay.
going out of the gate the first time.
So how did that now when did you do your books? When did it come out? You said December,
uh
December of 19. The first
yeah,
was that your first book?
no, the first one came out in I believe it was June or July, actually July of 2018. So that's when Everyone Just Like Me came out. And I just basically, I actually started Pretty Hair before Everyone Just Like Me even came into my head. But when I started Pretty Hair, it was basically a love letter to Black
Mm-hmm.
girls. And I said, I after doing Everyone Just Like Me, and I kind of started the platform of embracing differences, because that's what I wanted to teach my children. And I wanted other children to be able to,
Yeah.
know to that, we're not all the same, we're all different. We all have um, different things that make us beautiful. So I wanted, I shifted from it just being, a love letter to Black girls about their hair, to be a love letter to all girls about
Mm-hmm.
their hair, because we have um, so many different pictures that are out there, and especially young girls, they
Yes.
are not loving themselves the way that they should.
Yeah.
So it was more of, it turned from being just a love letter to Black girls to being all, and being a part of understanding each other.
Right.
In the book, there's an African American girl and a Caucasian girl that, they have misconceptions about each other's hair. And it's not
Oh.
until the end that they see, okay, oh, you like my hair? So, and vice versa. And, they go on to be good friends, because um there was a misunderstanding,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the beginning. And then it kind of, until you get the chance to open up, and the chance to understand each other, which is what I think, plays a part in even adults having
Mm-hmm.
such issues. You're able to say, okay, you know what? I totally misunderstood what was going on here. Let's
Yeah.
just come together and go ahead.
Okay. All right. I had a book. Well, I have a book that's coming out, and
Mhm.
it's called Hair Bully.
Okay.
Hair Bully, and it's along the same lines, but it had to do with my being a small child and getting my hair pulled, and
Okay.
so the same thing. My daughter was in gymnastics. She got her hair pulled. My
Oh.
niece is she's biracial. She's Filipino and Black, and someone pulled her hair. They wanted to see
Mhm.
if it was a weave, and so it's, like you said, it's to all girls. So, and it really spoke to me, because what happened was I never told anyone about that day,
Oh,
and
wow.
it just festered inside. Um, Brooklyn was the same. She didn't tell anyone
Oh,
about it until, asked what happened. My daughter asked, she never mentioned it until, probably years later,
yeah.
and said, oh yeah, that girl, she pulled my hair. And so I said, well, the hair is a thing. That hair thing is a big thing. So I know
Yes.
that, it started off, it transitioned from one thing into another. Just like you
Yes.
said, when you started off with your books, it may have seemed like an accident, but
Uh-huh.
God makes no mistakes. But
Exactly.
it seemed like
Yeah.
an accident, but then it just went on and rolled into something that could now be helpful to everyone. I
Yes.
think in terms of, someone might say, would you write something? Typically, they'll ask, I didn't finish my sentence there, but typically when you're writing, the first question that is asked of you is, who is your audience, right?
Yes.
And then they want to know, what are you trying to tell your audience? And with the self-publishing and writing your stories, oftentimes those questions don't come up initially.
Hmm.
Who are you writing to, and what, things happen, and then you fall into it, as you say. So it
Yes.
happened for your son, and then you woke up in the middle of the night, and I keep hearing these stories about
Uh-huh.
people waking up in the middle of the
Yes.
night and with grabbing that notepad on the side of the bed.
Hmm.
And for me, I wrote, let's see, for green banana, got to have that green banana.
Okay.
So what happened with that was, my grandson was doing something, and I was like, he's not ever really experienced that discipline, right? And so I recall the story of when I went to the grocery store with my grandmother, and I had to have this green banana.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, no, you cannot have the green banana. Also, it's famous now. So I had to have it, and she let me have it. So,
Uh-huh.
in both ways, she let me have it. And
Uh-huh.
so I couldn't share it that way, the way it actually happened, because we have so many different rules now. You can't really, be as transparent as you possibly
Mhm.
would be. So I had to take a nap, but basically back in the day when you had to go outside and get your own
Oh,
your
okay.
own little
Yes.
tree branch.
Uh-huh.
And so, but yeah, so that was the basis of the story. Well, he fell in love with the story, and he was so moved by the fact that I was 4 years old like him, and I had a grandmother like him. So
Mhm.
now he's 4, and he helps me to write the books.
Oh,
And so he's the co-author of the books. By he asks the questions up front, and then he answers questions. So I say, MJ, how did you enjoy the story? And then he lets me know, you shouldn't have did this, grandma, and you
okay.
shouldn't have said that, grandma. So I include that into the back of the story. So he opens the story up and he closes it. So
Okay.
I read. So then, so that's how the stories got going. And he's so excited to let you know he's the co-author. My grandmother does all of the work, but um, I'm a co-author with her. So he definitely finds all, like, I guess he has this kind of a photographic memory in some ways.
Hmm.
So if you tell him something one way, you cannot change it. He wants it to stay the same. So he's looking at every word when he reads the book. He actually found errors.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah, it sounds like Grandma, you said no, it was supposed to be this way. I'm like, oh, okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we'll get that fixed for you. You want it exactly the way you want it. So you said
Yeah.
your mom was in a little, have you I mean, you haven't always wanted to be, when it just happened, like you said,
Yeah.
accidentally,
Yeah.
and it's been a great experience for you. But I always looked up to authors because I just thought that they were just amazing. I never knew an author. I don't even think we had an author to ever come to our school
Mm.
and read. We had a lot of circle times in reading, but we had to know what illustrators were. And remember, you do a book report and you have to write that information down. But basically, so we never had authors to come and share like they do now. It was just so far off, and you could, not tangible, not reachable.
Yes.
So I think that this is such a wonderful platform, and I that first experience. What was it like when you got that book in your hand?
Well, it was awesome. I have pictures of exactly when I got it in the mail because I didn't know it was exactly coming then, and I'm there taking pictures and posting with everything, and that was a part of it for me. When I started going to different schools and having author visits and to see how the kids would light up, I
Yeah,
was just like, oh, wow, they are really responding to having an author come and speak to them and share their story. And there were a couple instances where I was in the school for about half day because I was going to different classes, and I would have teachers like run up to me and say, "Hey, my student wanted to make sure that that you knew that they were listening to what you were saying, and they even went ahead and tried to write a book in class." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that really resonated with me. And I looked up and saw that Reading Rainbow wasn't going to be coming back, so I thought, okay, well, I could possibly do a spin on like Reading Rainbow. And one of the things for me when it came to Reading Rainbow, and this was actually later in life, after I stopped being a viewer really of Reading Rainbow when I realized that the people that were reading the books weren't the people that wrote the books. And
Mhm.
so I was like, hmm, I said, seeing how kids light up to see me come and read my book, I want to give that experience to children everywhere because not every school, like you said, I didn't, all through elementary school, I do not recall an
I do.
author coming to my school.
Yeah.
Um, and, I said, yeah, there's something that I want to be able to bring to children, and especially, black and brown children of lower incomes and everything.
Mhm.
I want them to be able to see and connect with those authors because we, a lot of us, we hear about Dr. Seuss, we hear about Stan and Jen Berenstain. Honestly, I just saw the first picture of Dr. Seuss, um, his birthday that passed last week. you know,
Mm,
because
right,
I was
right.
I was researching him and I was like, oh, that's Dr. Seuss. Whenever anybody hear Dr. Seuss, they might think automatically he must look like the Cat in the Hat. He looked nothing like
Yes,
the Cat in the Hat.
yes, yes.
So I wanted to bring that experience to children, and that's why I created Read with Carylee. And we have all. It started out as being, I would have local authors come and read their books, and we actually had a live studio audience. We had
Mhm.
it in my studio was a neighborhood coffee shop here in Northern Virginia. And we would have children come in, and the authors would come and read their books, and they would have that interaction. And that was happening for about 5 months, and then COVID happened.
Oh,
But
wow.
that was kind of a blessing actually, because I was able to bring it in, and I created a studio in my home and started doing, um, I started recording with authors from across the US. And then I started, getting noticed and known by authors around the world. And right now we have recorded with authors from 4 different continents. And
Ah,
I'm just, so in awe because uh, my platform kind of started with embracing differences, and now it has kind of gone to diversity in books because I want to be able to expose children to different cultures, to different um, countries, without them
mhm.
having to their uh, leave their home. Like, honestly, in the past year, children aren't leaving their homes the way that they used to. So,
No.
being able to bring those authors in, and even some of the authors that I've interviewed and had them read their books, like I had an author from Australia who her
Mhm.
book was We All Honk the Same, which
I like that.
yeah, which kind of like in translation is we all quack the same. And
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of goes back to the book, my first book, Everyone Just Like Me,
Just like me.
showing that, we, like her book was, uh, there may be short birds, tall birds, round birds, but they all quack or honk the
The
same.
same.
So,
Yeah.
it's the same kind of message, but it's from a different cultural perspective that kids are able to now see. And they are not afraid to be able to approach different people. And like I said, with the diversity in books, and that's, really the campaign that I'm going for right now, to be able to have the diversity in books so that children are able to see other children of different
Yes,
cultures, races, ethnicities, and not be afraid of them. Because I
absolutely.
think that is the divider there. If we're all just seeing one type of children depicted in books, then
Yes.
when you grow up, you know, the stereotypes are fed to you. You know,
Hmm.
I actually am doing a bedtime story series for the month of March since it's National Reading Month. And the book that I read tonight to my audience was about a Black family. And it wasn't about a Black family, doing anything racial. It was just them being a Black family.
Just being, just
Yeah,
existing.
exactly. And
Exactly.
you don't really see that depicted in books. You see, Caucasian families just existing or bear families, just
Yes. Yes.
existing. But and even when I interviewed this author, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, "Oh, wow, you wrote about a Black family." And I'm just
Mm.
like, "Why am I shocked by that?"
Well, well, I didn't go into it, but that I had that similar experience. I was Googling around, or I was on, in one of the groups, and I came across a young lady, an author, but this
Mhm.
was like maybe a month back, and she had a book, and I didn't even write the name down, but it was an African American book,
Yeah.
and she was Asian, and yeah, and the cover and everything, and I don't know if it was I don't even remember what the cover was, or what have you,
Mhm.
but and I think she had written several books, like and so it struck me that, and it could have been in a group, Black illustrators, or Black authors and illustrators. I'm not really sure, but it just struck me. I was like, really, do we have to have somebody write our books,
Yeah.
or to the tune of what you're saying, should it matter
Yeah.
who writes the book? you know
Mhm.
I want us to be able to be represented, of course, in something that we know our stories. However, we should all be able to just write books, write
Yes.
stories, you
Mhm.
know and so yeah, to your point, that's very, very, very interesting, and hits close to home,
Yes.
for us all. And so that's one reason why I have a platform. I just really would like to see any and everyone who is out there who wants to write their story,
Yes.
not by the community standards, or the industry standards.
Mhm.
Write your story.
Yeah,
No one
exactly.
can tell your story, and
Yeah.
that it doesn't matter who you are, but most people, we don't fit into the box
Mhm.
that like I said, people that come up perhaps have always wanted to be an author, or illustrating. That's a little bit more refined, because you have to
Mhm.
put that time in there and learn and get
Yeah,
but being an author, it could hit you just like one day, and
exactly.
you need to get this out, so,
Yeah.
and that means it's available to us all. And I'm reminded of another author that says, hey, we all have that book in, that you've heard that, everybody has a
Yeah.
book in them, right? Two or
Mhm.
three or more. But
Yeah.
people really don't think that, they think that it's a title. It's like, if I didn't go to school to become an attorney,
Mhm.
then I'm just not going to be an attorney. No
Yeah.
matter how I represent you or plead your case before anyone, I'm not going to be an attorney. However, um, the author choose, that is not the case.
Yeah.
That
And
is not the case.
I see it as, especially, the United States is basically a melting pot. And
Yes.
there are so many people that come to this country, and as they say, people become Americanized, and they sometimes lose the history or lose the story. And even some of the stories that
Mm.
have happened in the US have been lost or
Wow.
covered or stolen.
Yeah.
So, to be able to have someone sit down and write, maybe a story that has been told to them by
Yeah.
their grandparents, and
Hmm.
their grandparents may not have thought to write it down, but then,
Right.
I may remember a story that my grandmother told me that explains something.
Hmm.
In Jamaica, we had this thing, and I didn't even know that it was a little bit more, uh, kind of diverse. But I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday who was Korean. And, and like I said, in Jamaica, we have these Anansi stories.
Hmm.
She had heard about Anansi stories, and she's like, "Yeah, I grew up on that." And I was like, "What?"
Oh, see?
you know so it has kind of transcended, and it has gone
Hmm.
to different cultures. It may have started in the African diaspora, but other cultures have taken it and put their face on it. you
Absolutely.
know
Absolutely.
so that's where we go back to having, okay, it doesn't have to just be a Caucasian family or an Indian family or a Black family. We should all be able to tell the story.
Tell.
I was researching for an article that I wrote, and was even finding out about how Dr. Seuss came to write Cat in the Hat and the books that he wrote. And it was because they were looking for a different type of story, a different type of primer story, other than Fun with Dick and Jane. they
Mm.
they
Hmm.
wanted to find something a little bit more exciting, and that's why they came up with the Cat in the Hat. But the primer stories were stories that were supposed to be sold to schools and to help teach responsibility and social graces and things like that. So we have now, okay, we had Fun with Dick and Jane being the ones that were teaching those stories, but now we have the Cat in the Hat and Green Eggs and Ham and all of those stories that Dr. Seuss wrote, um, which I found out his real name too. It's not Dr. Seuss.
Yeah. Right. And he didn't like children, I thought. He's like,
So it's like there's so much with the backstory, and that
yes.
that goes back to why I created this platform and why I have the authors come and read their stories, because
Hmm.
it's so wonderful to see a face to the
Yes.
story, and know
Mm.
that, um, okay, this author wanted to write this story for their children because they didn't see anyone that looked like their children,
Yeah.
telling that story. Or I've had authors that wrote bilingual books, and they
Hmm.
wanted to have a book where, you know, um, a Spanish speaking mother can also feel comfortable reading this story to their English speaking child, now, to kind of help them to still connect with their heritage. So it's a lot of that, and it's just bringing all of these books out, to children, and now going ahead with, Read with Carylee is becoming more than just the platform for authors to read. It's now becoming a resource for schools,
Absolutely.
a resource for teachers to be able to bring that diversity into their classroom and
That
teach
is so wonderful.
children. Yes. So that's one of the missions that I have, going further into 2021 and going into 2022, is to be able to partner with teachers, partner with schools and administrators to help them to not just look at, um, Black authors or Spanish authors, or of different cultures, not just during Black History Month
Black
or
History Month.
Spanish Heritage
Absolutely.
Month or Pan American Month. Let's
Hmm.
go all year,
All
because
year. Absolutely.
those children are in your classroom. Those children should
All
not
year.
only have 1 month or 1 week to be able
Mhm.
to celebrate different cultures. We're
And they are in the classroom not
Yes,
1 month, they're in the classroom all year round. And
absolutely.
that's exactly what we're talking about for Juneteenth. We don't
Yeah.
want to just celebrate Juneteenth. I'm on an organization panel, but
Mhm.
we don't want to just celebrate Juneteenth on Juneteenth. It's part of an everyday existence.
Yeah.
So there should be something, just being woven into the fabric
Yes,
and being
absolutely.
just there. They say systematic racism, but we are talking, we are systematically Black here
Exactly.
now,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
So,
and that's with, with all these books, and um unfortunately, the big publishing houses, they're
yes.
putting out more books. Well, now they're trying to get a little bit better, but
Hmm.
it's still disheartening to know that in 2021, that we are just tipping the iceberg at 12% of books that are published by the major publishing houses that are of Black characters.
Yes. Yes.
That's very
Absolutely.
sad to know that in 2021 that is deemed as okay.
A lot of things have happened in 2021, so you think you've come so far and then you realize you haven't gotten that far, but then you realize, hey, we've come pretty far, and then you look like, well, maybe we didn't go
No,
so
maybe,
far.
yeah,
You just go,
exactly.
it's just a back, it's a little toggle, have we really come that far? No,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe, so um, in retrospect, that's why we're here, and that's
yeah,
why you're here. And I am so grateful to have you. And I'm going to definitely have to have you back and
absolutely.
do part two, because this story goes on and on and on. And I just cannot get it all in 30 minutes. And I would just go on and on. And so my husband was like, you were like 2 hours on that conversation. I was like, yeah, it takes that sometime.
Yes.
Like, you're like, it takes that. It really takes that and more, because it's such an issue. I am just so elated to be able to provide such a platform to and meet so many people all over the world. I was really disappointed in my Divide character,
Oh,
author, illustrator that wasn't able to make it. I visited and I loved it. I was really excited about that. But
uh-huh.
you know, yeah, I'm with you on the fact that you can reach out and it's so diverse, and you can just get anybody that's, as a self-publisher, I just am so in love with this whole aspect, and of what people are doing, and they have so much, and I just want to be able to do my part and
Yeah.
reach out and do all that I can to create that platform or something, so that the children will have some place and something to identify with, especially our children. And then children that have never gotten a chance. Like I said, they don't have authors coming to this school. I never did. All I remember
Exactly.
about an author was filling out the form and doing our little book report.
Uh-huh.
And but having someone there makes it so real and
Yes.
touchable. And do you know the fifth grade trip that children take? They go to Washington, D.C., and they go to all of the monuments, and they go and see George Washington and all of the little statues and Jefferson. Well, my children had to go to that some years back, and I remember how they were running around and they were looking at tombstones, and and they were saying, "Oh, that's Mr. Lee," and different people that they had read about in history,
Yes.
and George Washington and all. We went to these houses, and how enriching that was for them, because they were able to put the face
Hmm.
with the book, with a real, actual live presentation. This museum. this chair, this
Yeah.
sofa. They actually
Mhm.
sat here. This was their place. That, they walked in the yard, and it made it really real for them, and not just an assignment. So they really got a chance to, know these characters are historical characters.
Yes.
And I remember how enriching that was for them. And so you're being there in that school where they can touch you with your little tutu, and and they can touch you and feel you and know that, hey, I can be this maybe.
Yes.
I can do
Uh-huh.
that. I remember, Miss Carylee coming, and that inspired that child. And
Mhm.
not like for me, the Waltons from back in the day. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Ellen. Good night,
Uh-huh.
Jose. And that's the closest that I really knew about an Arthur, coming up. And John, I mean, I think his name was John Boy. He was always being denied, you know. Um, he was actually the producer of the show. I think Laverne and Shirley that that
Okay.
made her.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was so. I guess I'm just proud to say that I'm on the platform where I can meet the people that I've often
Yes.
just appreciated for so many years.
Uh-huh.
That little book that comes in the mail, and what it does for you, and how emotional it is, and what it makes you feel like. And that's why I had to ask, what did that make you feel like? What was that
Yeah.
experience? It's just such a great and wonderful experience. And so I'm just elated to have you once again
Thank
on
you. Yes,
the
thank you
Comfort
for
Legacy.
having me.
Wonderful. We definitely will do this again.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
anytime we'll have. So, but welcome and thank you. And thanks for
Thank
sharing so much. Is there any last remarks that you'd like to share with the um, audience before we go?
well, and I always like to share is for authors that if you are writing a book that is passionate to you, if
Mhm.
there's a story that you feel that needs to be shared, write it.
Right.
And you know, there are so many ways in which you can self-publish now. You don't have to wait for a yes from someone else. If
Absolutely.
in you, go ahead and write it, and you'll be able to get on a platform like Read with Carylee or Comfort Legacies to be able to share your story.
Awesome. It feels good for
Yes.
me to hear you say that. Just- it's so good. Thank you so much. And I will be
You.
in contact with you again. And everyone knows about Miss Carylee, Read with Carylee, and the
Yes.
children are excited. They can go listen to you read or another author. And that
Yes.
is just amazing. And I'm happy to have you. And goodbye, because
All
I
right.
will go
Thank
on.
you. All right.